meeting for October. Again, I'm Lisa Dorsey, and I have with me Nicole Shimoni and Brian McGinnis. First order of business is announcements. Any announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents, taxpayers, and visitors in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Please be advised there's a 5-minute limit, which is at the discretion of council president and committee chair. Any comments?
Hi, Lisa Kearns, 300 Block West Biddle Street. Sometimes I feel like I'm whistling into the wind here, but looking for an update on the issue we raised like over the last 6 months about the intersection of New and Chestnut by St. Agnes, whether anything at all has happened there and anything around Veterans Park as far as any signs or painting the crosswalks or any of the other safety calming devices that the residents have asked for. Anybody?
I don't have an update on that, but I will commit to you that we will have an update by the work session next week.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Uh-huh.
and I thought last night, wasn't Don Anderson here? And he
I
said that-
raised it again with
Yeah.
the public works.
Yes, and he said that's a state road, so
Right.
he's gonna look into figuring out how you would apply to PennDOT from a state standpoint, because they were the ones that did the Price Street changes.
Right.
So hopefully, going back to by this time next week, you'll have an answer for that. But that's part of it, that it's a
Right.
state road.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
so
knew it
we'll
was a
figure out
state
little
road,
bit.
and yeah, so I'll come at it from as many angles as we can. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, moving on to reports. First up, we have the Westchester Fire Department.
Good evening, Justin McClure, Assistant Fire Chief. Council has the department's report for September. An uptick in calls for September. We actually see that generally every year, right as the college students come back, we see a little bit of a rise. And then in October, we start to see a dip. You look at our overall numbers for 2025, we're about 30 calls behind where we were this time last year. We like that. We like when the numbers are going down and not up. Couple fires in the month of September. I guess I'll address, if anybody saw the social media, the Saturday on homecoming, we were dispatched to a propane leak at the Chester County History Center, 215 North High Street. The incident actually ended up being on the Chestnut Street side, but there were some leaking propane tanks, which we had to deal with, and we do via an operation called flaring, which is where we, in a controlled manner, burn off the propane. So there was a street closure for a little bit while us and the Chester County Hazmat team completed that operation to render those tanks safe. That's all I have for the fire department report. Just of note, the ladder is really trying to get to the finish line. We no longer have the reserve. It was becoming cost prohibitive with repairs. The truck is 40 years old. So we are trying to push the yellow ladder to the end of the finish line. And hopefully, but when we come back next month, that's back in service. The only other apparatus related note, and I just talked to Barb, the fire department had two capital projects for 2025. One was a boat and one was an ATV. We expect the boat project to be completed in 2025. There was a little concern about being able to get the motors, but it seems like we're going to be okay there. The ATV project, although we'll have the physical ATV in 2025, we will not have the trailer or the skid unit that carries the water and the pump by 2025. So we will have to extend that project in the fire fund through 2026. So that covers now. I guess you want me to talk about budget for 2026. This will be really easy. The fire department is going into year 3 of the 5-year fire protection contracts between the borough and the 5 surrounding municipalities of Birmingham, Westtown, East Bradford, Thornbury, and West Goshen. The budget has a 3% escalator in it. So while this year's operating budget was $797,944, next year's with a 3% escalator will be $863,899. And that was agreed upon by all 6 municipalities a little over 2 years ago. There are no capital projects in 2026 for the fire department. Does anybody have any questions?
Excellent.
Any questions for Chief? Any in the audience?
Not a, Lisa Kearns, 300 Block West Biddle Street. Not a question, but a thank you. This is National Fire Prevention Month. It's Fire Prevention Month. And as you know, I have a special place in my heart for fire prevention. And I just appreciate the work that you all do to keep us safe. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Westchester Police Department.
Hello, I'm Josh Lee. I'm the police chief. This is a monthly report for September. Before I start, I'd like to point out one final time. We had an awards ceremony last week here to recognize some officers and for some great things they've done. I won't take up any more time than I need to, except to say that in the center of that picture there was from the awards ceremony. In the center of that photo, you'll see Sergeant Hammond in the very front, and directly behind him, the tallest person in the photo is Corporal Hill. Those are the two officers that came under fire in April of this year on South Church Street, and were lucky enough to escape with their lives. Those officers were presented with the Combat Cross by the mayor. And since this is a public meeting and it'll be recorded, I just want to recognize the great effort by those two officers, Sergeant Hammond and Corporal Hill. As far as calls for service go, pretty much steady. If we look across, we had an increase in motor vehicle thefts. We've had, albeit not a huge increase, we've had two motor vehicle thefts in July and August, and then 3 in September. And that's typical. We've had 2 or 3 for several months, even prior to what you see here. Most of those we've learned are committed by the same actor or actors, and we're investigating them. I hope to come back to you in a month or two with a report that we've brought that actor to justice, but we're working on that very diligently. As far as all the other crimes go, pretty much steady. Expect that we're going to see an uptick in our quality of life crimes and our nuisance crimes in next month's report to capture what happened over the homecoming weekend. If we get to the next slide. As far as our noise complaints go, for September, we had 50 complaints of noise, and 9 of those complaints resulted in citations to residences. For each one of those disorderly residences, we've forwarded the paperwork up to Mr. Fluke's office with the codes department for action. And just a reminder that we have had an increase in vehicle thefts, and the easiest way to prevent them, in fact, all but save 1 or 2 of the 9 or so that we've had in the last 4 months could have been prevented if the keys weren't left in the car and or the car doors were locked. So as silly as that sounds, I've done it myself and accidentally locked the smart key or not locked, but left the smart key in the car, which would just allow anybody to come and drive that car away. So a reminder to anybody that's listening, take your keys with you, make sure you have them, and lock your doors. As far as the regular report, that's all I have. Certainly open to any budget questions if you have any this week. If not, I'll be here at the work session as well.
I just have a couple of questions, Chief. I see there's a reduction in ordinance revenue predicted for 2026. Do you know what that's related to?
I can only assume, I don't know exactly. Nothing changed from us. Those are some assumptions that the borough manager made on a 5-year look back. So he may have made some assumptions to lower. That's
Okay.
not coming from the police.
If I for that, we lowered that number in the 2026 budget based on what our projections were coming through for 2025. That is on our list to to look at. Maybe we may bump that up.
My questions for next week.
Okay.
In the work session then. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Chief? All right, I will move on to Good Fellowship.
Good evening, Justin Robbins, Director of Operations, Good Fellowship. Council has our report. For the month of September, we responded to 768 calls, 180 of those were here in the borough. Nothing new on our times or day of the week. We are seeing a little bit of an uptick on the weekends. We expect that this time of year, as well as our sick person dispatches is rising up. You know, it's cold and flu season. So seeing an increase in those, but other than that, nothing outstanding to report for the month. Any questions on our report?
Curious. I mean, I would have expected to see an uptick in September. It looks like the numbers are down slightly.
No. Our numbers are up for drug and
Well-
alcohol.
So I'm looking at the call volume for September of 2024
You're looking at
compared to
last year.
2025. Yeah.
Yep, we are a little bit slower here in the borough this year.
I would expected that to be up with the students back. But we'll take it.
Knock on wood. We'll
Yeah.
take what we can.
Okay. Any other questions for Good Fellowship? Any questions from the audience? All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, I guess I don't know where the right place is to bring this up. I know that we had requested and we had received a breakdown. Okay. Come on down.
I'm gonna let Chaz.
Chaz Bergen, I'm the Executive Director from Good Fellowship Ambulance. As a follow-up from the last meeting, Councilman Flynn had asked for a breakdown of the total call volume used for the 2026 budget. So we'll pull that up real quick and I can walk through this with you. And we'll do a more detailed review at the work session, but just wanted to share this with you. Yeah, it's a separate document, sorry. So the total call volume that we used for the 2026 budget was 2,281 dispatches in Westchester Borough. That's from a 12-month sampling of August 2024 to July of 2025. So we broke those out into these categories here of different common places or locations throughout the borough as best as we could. So obviously, apartments and residences are the #1 consumer there. The second consumer is Haven Behavioral Hospital, which we did discuss last month, as evidenced here as well. So I do think we need to have some conversations with Haven. They are generating a lot of ambulance volume out of their facility. We have discussed this with them previously. Their new CEO is aware of this, and I know she's exploring alternative options for lower acuity semi-emergent items, but there's no solution to date there. Westchester University, which we report on every month, roadways and sidewalks. So these were calls not attributed to a physical address within the borough. Inside of here, we found trips and falls, alcohol overdoses, some behavioral health, and just stuff that we couldn't associate to a specific address within the borough. And then certainly some of the assisted living facilities as well. Really, everything else is self-explanatory, but happy to answer any questions on this that you may have.
Thanks, Chaz. I just want to make sure I understand this.
Yep.
This breakdown is specific to the borough only,
That's correct.
not any of your other jurisdictions.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
2,281 dispatches in the borough of Westchester.
Okay. That answers my next
Yep.
question.
So with that, you have not gone to or maybe you have. Have you gone to Haven? Have you gone to Westchester University? Have you gone to the Hickman? Have you gone to Barclay Friends to ask them? You're asking us, I think, for $300,000 next
Just
year.
under, yep.
Have you asked them for their percent? I mean, 9% is a lot, you know, I mean, up $30,000, right? And then another Westchester University, another roughly $30,000, not
Yeah.
exact, but
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, what conversations have you had with them as
Yeah.
opposed to putting the entire burden on us? Because most of these, these organizations don't even pay us taxes, so they can't even say, oh, we pay you taxes,
Agree.
so you pay this, right?
So two pieces there. We do feel that any dispatch in Westchester Borough is the responsibility of the Borough of Westchester. You name Good Fellowship as the ALS and BLS provider every year. So everything inside the borough is the responsibility. That being said, we have approached almost all of these facilities in the past for support. Most of them do not support us in any way. We've had specific conversations with Westchester Borough, or I'm sorry, Westchester University. The most support we've gotten from them is like free room rentals, really for training activities. I agree, those conversations need to be had. I do believe those conversations need to come from Westchester Borough, though, not Good Fellowship. We've tried to have these conversations for years, probably decades with Westchester University. We don't have the teeth, you guys do. We're happy to support that. We will join you with that. We'll provide data, but we feel strongly that's a conversation the Borough Council needs to have with Westchester University and the others on here.
And do they say that they don't need your services and that's why they don't support you? Or what was their reason? for
Yeah,
not
so we've
wanting-
presented several options specific to the university, and also Mr. Metric, of how they could support Good Fellowship. And the feedback we get is, state school, red tape, not possible. We can't do something like that. So, unfortunately, we've not made any progress in many, many years with Westchester. Also, there's been a turnover, I will say, with some of their senior leadership over the past few years. So as soon as we do have a relationship with somebody there, they seem to leave. That's been a big challenge for us as well. So
There may be an opportunity now with the renewed partnership with the university to bring this to the table. And I do agree, it would be helpful to have Good Fellowship at the table.
yeah, we'd love to do
As
that.
part of those discussions. So
Yep.
maybe we add that as an agenda item to the,
This month's
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Okay. We could start there.
Yeah, at the Community Campus Coalition. Okay.
Well, actually, not at the community camp. We
Okay.
have another meeting that's like a more of a leadership meeting that we have monthly with Deb and some of his direct reports and
Yeah.
what have you. That's a little bit
Yeah.
more beyond the community campus committee and what we do there. So.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions on this?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, and I think this goes to the larger part of the university and what Nicole and Lisa mentioned too about Westchester University. And, we're going to see in the Smart Growth Committee meeting, they're going to have their presentation and everything. And it seems to me and to the taxpayers out there that they want us to solve their problems. And that can no longer happen. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion with them regarding the smart growth presentation and my opinion with them regarding this particular subject. I mean, they have to come to the table.
I agree.
And they take, and they never give.
Mhm.
And that needs to stop.
I want to mention too, the 195 calls you see are just the calls that are physically on their campus. All these other houses, apartments, bars, roadways, sidewalks, they all include Westchester University students. We have no way to quantify that though. We don't ask them if they're university students. So the impact is definitely greater than what you're actually seeing here. So, but yeah, we're happy to help with that at all. Again, we just feel strongly that the borough needs to have the conversation and we'll certainly support it. So.
You got to come on down. You can't just sit back there, Bernie. Run down like I did last night to talk about the.
Bernie Flynn, 313 West Minor Street in the sweetest ward in the borough. Chaz has given us empirical data. So we now know exactly where all the funding, his funding is going. We do owe it to the residents in the apartments and in the houses. I mentioned to the assistant borough manager that we should put together a team to invite the top 5 users here to the borough and have a meeting with them here at the borough, or we can individually go there and visit with them. Behavior Health is a for-profit company. So it's not like they're nonprofit. So they have funding in there that they could actually pay us. Barclay Friends has been always very good to the borough. Once a year, they drop off a gift that we use here at the borough, and they do it very quietly. But the rest of them, to your point, Westchester University, I'm sure that if management strongly invites them to a meeting here at Borough Council or at Borough Hall here, we could probably come to some kind of deal, to start shrinking this gap of $300,000 that is sitting there now, because they are prime users of the fees. To Chaz's point, he's providing the service, and unfortunately, they just blow him off every time he asks for money. But when they dial 911, the Good Fellowship team always shows up and does everything they possibly can. So I think it falls on our shoulders now to try to take this thing head on and try to solve it before the end of the year. So I mentioned it to Ramsey. I'll have to wait for Mr. Metric to come back, but we can put together a team for a couple of meetings to see how we can get them to partner with us in the borough. But thank you for having Chaz do the work.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Mr. McGinnis's point, actually, I think all of us, Westchester University is probably the biggest contributor to the usage of your services, of Good Fellowship services. And I think you make a valid point, the houses and apartments are not just, tax-paying residents. Those are also, rentals, many of them student rentals. So I do think there's a separate conversation to have with the university. Mr. Flynn, I think, you have a good idea around, the top 4 or 5 users of the service, but I do think there's a very specific conversation to have with the university. And we'll add that to the next agenda, Ramsey and Dana, for the next university meeting. Mayor?
Thank you. Lily Andy Baptiste, Walden Drive, Westchester. So I have a couple of comments to say. That's a good list. Thank you for that. I'd like to know basically what that breaks out monetarily wise, when you give us those percentages, what that looks like money, what money that looks like. I think we should not, if we're going to have these conversations with all of these agencies, it should be with all of them. We shouldn't limit ourselves to the top 2 or 3 or 4. We should have it with all of them, period, because all of them could possibly contribute to the pot to lower what the cost is down. Secondly, the university is actually doing better. They're contributing. They did contribute last year to help, if you recall, to help during friends and family homecoming to the tune of about $12,000 or $13,000. I think they contributed. I know it's a drop in the bucket, but it's the first drop. So I think conversations with them all, and they've already indicated they're going to do that this year as well. So we don't have the check yet. I think they're going to bring me a check in the next week. I think they're just waiting on Chief Lee's final total. So they are contributing. They are doing really well with we're doing really well with our conversations with the university. And I think we should have these kind of conversations with Good Fellowship involved and seated at the table with all of them. Because sometimes when they know better, they'll do better. If they know the drain, financially speaking, and the percentages, what it looks like, they'll do better, including some of these apartment owners, so businesses. These bars take a lot of every weekend drain on our community too. So we shouldn't limit ourselves. I think we should have conversations with all of them, invite them all in, and, have the most amicable people on the council talk to them, which would be all of you. But I think that a conversation is definitely in order, but with all of them.
Thank you. Chief?
I just want to use this opportunity to say how grateful the police department is in having Good Fellowship Ambulance here, how important it is that no matter what council has to do to make it happen, I implore you to please make sure
that it does happen. I think often agencies of the quality of GFAC get taken for granted because they deliver such high quality service. The Westchester Police Department is the police provider for Westchester Borough. Good Fellowship is the ambulance and advanced life support provider for Westchester Borough.
we are so fortunate to have both of those entities. Do what you have to do, but I implore you. I've seen what other municipalities have. I've been in the business in police work for 26 years and in emergency services and on the fire and EMS end for closer to 35. And nowhere has it as good as Westchester Borough does because of the partners we have in GFAC. And as humble as Chaz might be that he doesn't put it that way, let me put it that way and beg you to do whatever you have to do to make sure that there is a wrinkle-free transition to 2026 and beyond.
Should you come to the Westchester University meeting and give them the same spiel?
If I have to do it standing on my head, I'll do it. It shouldn't even be a conversation. It should be something that is just an automatic. Let's make sure this happens. So invite me and I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments on Good Fellowship? Okay, thank you all. We will move on to old business and approving the September 2025 meeting minutes for public safety. Any questions on the minutes? Okay. Moving on to new business, a motion to revise Chapter 80 pertaining to background checks for solicitation permits, 80-30, and provide approval for fixed locations, 80-10. Discuss background check process procedures, approval of items in fixed location.
This is something that we're asking council to change because of regulations relating to background checks for these permits. The police department is not authorized by the Criminal History Records Act to provide these checks, but there are private vendors that do, and would like to get up to speed and have that reflected in the ordinance.
Okay, I was wondering.
Keep going. Keep going. Right, okay, right there where it says and. What I would also like council to consider is where it says, except with the prior approval of the property owner or borough, I would like it to say property owner and borough. And that's for putting tables at fixed locations, which Aaron's going to talk about later at Smart Growth. So that just means that a store or restaurant can't tell somebody, sure, put 10 tables out and do whatever you want. The borough would have to also be informed that they're going to do that.
And the idea that this is weaving in with right.
And every ordinance.
Right.
And the end was part of the edits that were in the attachments, at least. Yeah,
The owner and borough.
it's fine. Me. Call Brian, you good with that change?
I'm
As
fine
well?
with that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to other business.
Evening, Keith Krause, Director of the Parks and Rec Department. The Veterans Day Parade is scheduled for the 9th of November. The reason it hasn't been on an agenda so far is because the organizers put together the application, got all the information together back on July 17th and thought they had submitted it through our system. The organizer of the Veterans Council came to see me yesterday morning and said, "Hey, what's the status of our application?" I said, "I don't have an application. I emailed your number 2 guy a couple weeks ago asking where it was. The number 2 guy's been unavailable." So basically, I'm asking if it can be done now or if it'll have to be done next week at a council work session, that we would approve it. I've already spoken with the police department, the chief, and Sergeant Malicki, who's in charge of the events. It is the same parade as it has been in years past. They have all the information. They're willing to pay for all the services that are needed. They just need approval.
I don't have any questions, and we had, Joe was here last month talking about the Veterans Day Parade. I don't have any concerns, Mr. McGinnis.
Neither do I.
Would that have to go before, I don't know if we can make changes to this agenda. Would it have to go before the, I guess, work session?
Yeah.
I just wanted to inform him. Thank you.
Any other business? All right, we will adjourn at 6:32.